Hi, everyone, and thank you very much for watching or listening. Liam Hartree here today with another episode of Presenting Champions for the Simply Inspired podcast. And today I'm joined by a very, very special guest. I'm truly honored to welcome this lady onto the show because not only because of everything that she has achieved in the sport of powerlifting, but also because of the type of person she is as well and what she represents as an athlete and a human being. So today's guest, Kathleen James, known as ValkyRican on social media. Hopefully I'm saying that the right way. As I mentioned, has some absolutely tremendous achievements in powerlifting. And I've actually got a list of them here because I don't have to call you Kathleen or Valky. I'll call you Kathleen, I think, for the purposes of
That's fine.
has a list of achievements as long as my arm. So we've got Feb 2019, first powerlifting meet, first place overall best lifter. April 2019, first place overall female. July 2019, first place overall female powerlifting meet as well. December 2019, first place overall best lifter. March 2020, Arnold Classic Invite Grand Champion. That's something you don't hear every day. August 2020, Powerlifting Nationals, first place overall in the female category. September 2020, first equipped powerlifting meet, first place, best overall female lifter. WPO Invite, sixth place in the world. Wow. September 21. First Open and Masters, second place overall. December 21, APA powerlifting meet, first place overall. May 2022, first bodybuilding competition, first place true novice, first place masters, first place open overall. Stay with me, guys, we're almost there. September 2022, first place overall, pro invite, all-time world record bench press. Wow. Hold national and world records, APA, APF, IPA, SPF, and WPC, and currently lifting 10 times your own body weight. Wow, I hope I've done that justice because
You're reading it. I'm like, that's crazy.
it's crazy and in such a short space of time as well. Absolutely remarkable. You've achieved so much and so much to be proud of. And of course, there's some very, very good things yet to come as well. So we will be talking about that as well. First of all, though, thank you for coming on the show and thank you for taking time out of your weekend to make this happen. I'm very grateful and appreciate that very much.
Thanks for asking.
No problem at all. Like I said to you, I mean, I came across you on social media pretty much by chance, but I'm always on the lookout for people who are inspirational and you tick that box and then some. So obviously we'll be talking about powerlifting itself and we'll be talking about your sporting career. But before we do, let's go back in time a little bit and talk about your early years, I suppose, is the best way to call it, where you grew up. And if you were interested in sports growing up, or if that's something that came a little later, let's start there, please.
So I'm one of four kids. I've got two older sisters and a younger brother, and I grew up in Richmond Hill, Queens. My family at some point moved to New Jersey, and then I did the rest of my time there. Growing up, I mean, I played softball, but honestly, my heart was in the theater. I loved musicals and plays and singing, and um, that is what I was like, oh, that's what I'm going to do when I grow up. Obviously, that did not happen, but it was something that I enjoyed. Um, I joined the military right from high school, and you know, I can't say I did any sports there, but I mean, it was you had to actually, I guess be I don't want to say athletic, but um, in some type of shape in order to stay in the military and do your PT and all that stuff. So I guess I was in okay shape, but sports really wasn't a thing.
Yeah, that's very cool. So sports came a little bit later. Now,
Mhm.
let's touch on your time in the military as well. Sorry, I should have mentioned that in the intro, actually, but I was
Oh, that's right.
preoccupied with that, with everything you've achieved in sports. But yes, you know, you obviously served your country. With this, I mean, I don't mind actually which direction we go with this. I'd like to just touch on some of your memories from your time serving, particularly some of your favorite aspects of your time in the army, in the military, some of what you enjoyed about it. I know it's quite a broad question, but it's the best way, because if we sort of hone in on something, we might miss something else.
Mhm.
So in terms of what you enjoyed about your time serving, especially starting so young by the sound of it as well.
Mhm.
Actually, let's start there. Was that a daunting experience for you in the beginning, or was it a challenge that you sort of took to right away when you first joined up?
I took to it right away. I don't know, I guess was a little bit of a tomboy, kind of, not very girly. So, I didn't know what I was gonna do after high school, but when I was 17, I was like, you know what? The army sounds cool. And my mom had to sign for me in order to sign up. So I started in the delayed entry program as a junior in high school. Um, and then I graduated in June as a senior, and August I was gone. I left pretty much right away. But I loved it. The camaraderie, the friends that I made, I still keep in touch with them. I mean, it was great.
And how long did you serve overall? How long were you in there?
So completely 20 years. I started out in the army, did my time there as an active duty, and then took a little bit of a break, and then said, you know what, I miss the military, and I went back in and finished with the Navy Reserves. So totally switched branches.
Wow, that is remarkable. A remarkable achievement in and of itself. As I mentioned, especially starting so young. Is 17 in the US, is 17 the youngest you can sign up and join? Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, but you have to have an adult obviously give you permission to do it.
Okay, it's not, yeah, over here I think it's 16, but it's the same thing. It's
Mhm.
you know, you have to have someone sign.
Yeah.
Okay, so absolutely, absolutely remarkable. I'm glad we got to give that a mention. Now, in terms of obviously your sporting achievements, I'm going to start with the inspiration first and foremost. You know, to get into powerlifting, to test yourself. What initially gave you the idea to do that? What was the inspiration right in the beginning, please?
My husband actually. So he's always done powerlifting, big powerlifter. Um, and one day he came home and he was like, "Hey, check this out." And I was like, "What is it?" And I'm reading this screenshot, and I was like, What does this mean?" He's like, "I signed you up for your first powerlifting meet." And I was like, "What?" I was like, I, I'm over here like I was freaking out. I was like, "Are you serious? Like, why would you do that?" He's like, "Because I think you'll do good." And I was like, I've never lifted this heavy stuff. I mean, I've been to his meets, several of them, and I was like, I can't do this. I'm like, this is ridiculous. And he's like, no, you're gonna do it. And I was like, all right, I guess I'm doing this.
Wow, that's super cool. So that's how it started. And
Yeah.
from the time that, so he obviously signed you up for the competition and everything, and then how long did you have to actually train and prepare and everything for that first one?
So that first one was February 2019, and we started training in November. Yeah.
So that is super cool. And obviously, with that, I mean, when you were preparing for the first one, did you ever envision at that time that you would then go on to do everything that you've done now, or was it very much just a case of thinking, actually, I need to just get through this one, and anything after that's a bonus, if you get what I mean? I'm curious
Yeah.
to see the mindset with that first one.
I honestly never would have imagined that I would be where I am. I mean, I was so focused with that meet and hoping that I didn't, mess up or bomb out. So I stayed focused. I followed his programming exactly as he said, but never in a million years ever would I think that I would be holding the records that I hold.
Oh, and of course, in that first meet, you came first place as well, as I think I read off in the initial
Yep.
introduction. So, how did that feel in the moment? You know, at the time you realized that you'd done so well in only your first time, basically.
When they called my name, I was like, Yeah, I looked around for a second 'cause I was like, "Is that me?" I was shocked. I was blown away. There's maybe they made a mistake. They did not, but I was thrilled as like I said, I just wanted to go and actually finish the meet and do well. I really had no focus on I want to be the best because I mean, that was my first meet. Why would I think I would be the best?
Yeah, absolutely. So you exceeded your own expectations there, which I
Yeah.
think is very cool because, well, as you know, a lot of people start off and there's usually a little bit of struggle there in terms of a period of time thinking, is this for me? Is this something I want to do? Maybe placing a little bit lower down. But, you came first straight off the bat. So, well done. I mean, that's an amazing achievement in and of itself. And obviously from that time, you made the decision to continue. Was it after that competition that you decided looking at this from the point of view of, I want to achieve big things? Or in the beginning, were you still sort of taking it one meet at a time, if you get what I mean? How far ahead were you looking in those early days?
After I did that first one, I was like, you know what, this was fun. I had a good time, and then we're like, hey, maybe we can sign up for another one and see if I can, beat the numbers that I just did. So every time I would do another meet, I would want to do better than my last one. Um, and it just kept happening.
Oh, that is extraordinary. So we'll come to some other of the meets and some of your other achievements in just a moment. But before we do, with your husband, obviously he competes as well. So in terms of your training dynamic, it'd be cool for people to get an insight into how that works. I'm guessing you obviously train together and you help each other back and forth in different ways. But just in your own words, can you share with us a little bit about your daily routine and how you work together to help each other smash those goals, basically?
So I mean, as far as my programming and stuff, he programs all my powerlifting, everything that I do, my accessories, my big lifts. He he programs everything, and I pretty much follow it to the T. Sometimes it gets a little difficult because we're husband and wife, and so he'll tell me to do something, and I'll be like, I don't want to, but I'll still do it because I know realistically he knows what he's doing. He's super smart when it comes to many things, but when it comes specifically to my training with the powerlifting, he has never faltered. I mean, it's just he always says it's a number thing, it's a science, and I'll always see him in his phone and he's putting numbers in and calculating stuff, and he's like, all right, well, these numbers say this and this number say that, and he's never been wrong. So I'm like, he's a genius as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely. That's wonderful, though. I think that's absolutely amazing how you train together and he helps you and you help him and everything. It's extraordinary, really. I think that's a very nice system that you have. So obviously, as I mentioned at the beginning, you've achieved a lot in a short time. And when I have when I'm in this situation with people who've done so much, the way I usually condense it down for people listening is to talk about your favorite moments. So obviously coming out from that first one, we will talk about a few specific competitions, so don't worry. But in terms of the ones which mean the most to you, and the reasons why they mean the most to you, it'd be good to touch on that a little bit because I love asking this question because you never know which one is going to crop up. It's not always the ones you expect. So, in your own words, what have been some of your favorite competitions so far and why, please?
So I wound up qualifying for the Arnold in 2020. That was amazing. Unfortunately, that was the time when COVID hit. And so we had everything was planned, our plane, everything. And we got a call the day before that said, hey, they're shutting down the expo. And I literally, I was crushed because I was like, this is something that I had looked so forward to, and they're canceling the expo because of COVID. I was like, this is horrible. Um, well, I would say, and that was the day before we were leaving. I was like, well, I guess we're still going to go to Ohio and have a vacation, but I won't be lifting. And somehow they managed to pull off the event anyway. It was very limited, not a lot of stuff going on, which was kind of bummer because the Arnold Expo is amazing. Um, but we still did it. And so with powerlifting, obviously you have 3 squats, 3 bench, and 3 deadlift. I don't know if it was my nerves. I don't know if it was because it was the first time on a platform such as that, but somehow I managed to win my division with 1 squat, 1 bench, and 1 deadlift. I made my first ones, and that was it.
Wow, that is amazing. That is absolutely incredible. I mean, it's an incredible achievement anyway, but I'm not lost for words very often. But that really is something, especially with the pressure of everything else that was going on, as you mentioned. So,
Mhm.
wow. And I also have to give a mention here to placing sixth in the world as well. I think that is one that really deserves a mention. Let's just walk through that whole experience in your own words. That's the best way. I mean, I don't have a very specific question about it. Obviously, how you felt
Mhm.
achieving that will come into this. But the same thing, your memories from that achievement would be really good to touch on, please, as well.
So this is actually I'll condense it because it's lengthy. You have to qualify for the WPO, and I was training to qualify for a meet in September, which actually fell on my birthday. Um, 2 weeks prior to that qualification meet, we have a gym set up in our garage. I fell while I was doing a squat. My knees gave out, and I fell right on my knees. And I thought, I'm not going to be able to compete. I cried and cried and cried. I was like, my knees aren't, I'm not going to be able to do it. We did some rehab for those 2 weeks, and we drove down to Fort Lauderdale because that's where the qualifying meet was. And I was in such excruciating pain. My knees just, they felt like trash. Somehow I managed to pull it off and compete in that meet in pain. Got best overall female lifter and qualified for the WPO, which I was thrilled. Fast forward to the WPO, um, I was cutting weight prior to the actual event, and I wound up cutting a little too much. So the gear that I had to wear was big, nothing fit. My husband Tim, along with our friends that were there, were doing everything that they could to try and fold stuff and just so that way it didn't look like I looked like I was wearing someone else's clothes. Um, because I had lost so much weight in just that short period of time and trying to rehydrate and put the food back in the day after weigh-ins. As much as I was eating, it was I wasn't filling out. Um, but I made it through that meet and I placed sixth, and that was the first time I had ever done anything like that against just amazing females that have been doing this forever. So it was awesome. It was a nightmare, and then it turned into being something super awesome.
Wow, that is amazing. I mean, it is something that I love to touch on with these because it's something that people don't see from the outside looking in. What I mean by that is the challenges that go on, like you mentioned with your knees and everything for the qualifiers. People don't see things like that. Other athletes listening to this will know how life happens, if you like, and you have to push through it. But for people watching or people following sports in other ways, that's the side of things they don't see. So would you say that qualifiers with the knee injury and everything was your toughest competition in terms of having to push through the pain, push through the injury, or are there other ones that come to mind for that as well?
That the qualifier was probably the worst because, like I said, the ride from Jacksonville to Fort Lauderdale is 4 hours. I was in horrible pain, and the only ones that knew that I was hurt was me and my husband. We didn't tell anybody else. We kept quiet. Um, you know, some people when I got out of the car saw me hobbling a little bit, and I was like, "Oh, my knees are just stiff from the drive." It wasn't until after that I let everybody know, "Hey, listen, I'm hurt." um, but we did it, so it doesn't matter at this point, right?
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. Well, it's an incredible achievement, and it's a testament to, your mindset as well, because to do what you do, you have to have mental strength as well as physical strength. I mean, that's something that really comes into it, and we'll touch on that more very soon. But before we do, obviously, getting into your training daily a little bit more. Well, actually, no, we will touch on the mindset thing actually as soon as we're talking about that, because as I mentioned, in order to train and in order to consistently push to higher and higher weights and do what you do, and to obviously compete at the highest level, you do have to have a strong mind. So we will touch on that. How do you mentally prepare for a competition? Because when I talk to people about this, obviously things like visualization and self affirmations and certain things come up for some people. Other people don't really sort of look at it that way, and they actually push the competition out of their mind. So different people do different things. But in terms of when you're on the build up to it, how do you feel? What's going through your mind? What's your actual process for feeling ready inside yourself, if that makes sense?
Mhm. I actually rely on my husband a lot to get me mentally ready. I have a lot of I don't want to say I have a lot of self-doubt, but I doubt myself. And I'm like, can I do this? And he always is like, no, it's when you do this. Stop asking if you can. Stop, questioning it. And he tells me all the time, he's like, I'll believe enough for the both of us until you believe it yourself. So I honestly, I rely on him so much for that mental push because he- I mean, he believes in me. He's never not believed in me, even when I didn't believe in me. Um, so we write numbers down. We say these are what we're gonna hit, and he's like, "You're gonna hit it. That this is what you will do." And I'm like, "Okay, as long as you saying I'm gonna do it, I guess I'm doing it."
I love that. I absolutely love that. And do you know why? First of all, the connection that you both have and the way you're describing it is absolutely amazing. But as well as that, I think it's a powerful thing, because when people want to achieve a big goal or a big dream in their lives, and obviously that's the reason why I do these, they look at people who are achieving amazing things like you, and they think, wow, she must be like superhuman, superwoman, and not feel the fear, and not feel the nerves, and not feel doubt and all this. And obviously, we know how that goes, where when I interview people who've done all of these things, they feel exactly the same emotions as anyone else, and you do as well from what you're describing. But it's just how we choose to handle them, and that I think is a very valuable lesson for life, not just for sports. Is these things are always going to be there, self doubts and nerves, and
Mm,
questioning yourself, and having to turn to other people for support as well. I mean, that's a wonderful thing to do, to speak out, to say, look, I'm feeling this way, because don't we live in an era where people are trying to put everything on their own shoulders and say, oh, I don't
mm,
need any help, I don't need people. Of course you do. No one is an island, no man or woman is an island.
yeah.
So there's some very, very good lessons there. I'm just sort of highlighting around. Let's talk about your training regime itself. Now, obviously, um, I mentioned at the beginning about 10 times your body weight, I think it is. Now,
Mm,
with this, we need to cover this from the point of view, people who know sort of all about powerlifting, they'll know about this, but we need to cover this for the people who are not as familiar as well.
mm,
When I was researching this, because I mean, I'm not a powerlifting expert myself either. I do follow the sport a fair bit, but obviously when you're competing and training every day and doing what you're doing, it's a whole other side of things. But in terms of your training regime, in terms of consistently pushing to higher and higher weights and everything, and what you're doing every day, I know it's what you do every day, so I hope it's not sort of boring for you, but it'll be fascinating for other people.
mhm,
Can you share with us a little bit about your daily routine and what you're doing each day, please?
mhm. I mean, so as far as the powerlifting goes, I train usually anywhere between 5 to 6 days a week. Depending on how I'm feeling, I might take an extra day off. But everything's broken up between the three heavy lifts, the squat, bench, and the deadlift. We do max effort training, which means, I'm pushing some heavy weight. And then we do dynamic, which is more speed work, because obviously you need to have some type of speed in order to lift these weights. Um, that's, I mean, as far as that goes, that's pretty basic. My training usually lasts anywhere between an hour and a half to 2 hours long. My training now is a little bit different because I'm obviously focusing on my bodybuilding, side. But with the powerlifting, it's brutal. It can be rough. I mean, my body hurts, I would say more often than not when I'm in the powerlifting phase of my sport.
Absolutely. And we'll come to the bodybuilding as well. So don't worry, we'll come to that more in
Mm,
exclusion shortly. But before we do, yeah, I mean, the pain barrier thing is something that I have in mind to ask you about with this because, well, it's absolutely extraordinary. I mean, the way that you push your body, the way that you have the discipline to do that. Obviously, you feel pain as you mentioned. So what is your process for pushing past extreme pain when it does come, basically?
I mean, I just look at it as I have a goal that I'm trying to achieve. So pain is temporary. It'll go away. I go to a chiropractor, I get my massages, I do those things that I need to do to take care of myself. But, you know, if I can get past that little bit of pain and reach my goal, it's worth it.
Absolutely, yeah. And again, it's a valuable lesson for life because pushing through pain obviously comes in different forms,
Mhm.
but that lesson applies to sort of emotional or mental pain just as much as physical, and people need to push through that. So very valuable. Yeah, I mean, let's talk about the bodybuilding side of things because not only have you achieved so much in powerlifting, but you decided now to sort of switch it up a little bit and
Mhm.
push in a different direction. So, um, first of all, the same as what I asked you earlier with the powerlifting itself, with bodybuilding, what was your initial inspiration to sort of shift a little bit in that direction, first of all?
It was something that I'd always thought about, but was like, I don't want to do that. Um, and I did my last meet. Lord, I'm sorry. I'm looking back at what I what I had said because I was like, when did I do this? Um, the meet prior to, I'm sorry, hold on.
Okay, I'm having a look my side as well.
Yeah, I'm like, gosh, when I know I did my first one was in May. So in December, that's what it was. After I did that last meet in actually September, the 9/11 meet. I did that, and in October is when I said, you know what, let's try some bodybuilding. So I got in touch with a local coach here and signed up because my husband's a power lifter. He doesn't he knows, and he'll say, he's like, I'm not a bodybuilder. He's like, if you need bodybuilding help, then you need to find a bodybuilding coach. Um, and so I did, and I mean, he's like, I always call him, I was like, he's a magician. I don't know how he does it, but he was able to dial me in perfectly for our first show, and we're just under 3 weeks away from my big show in New Jersey, and we're pretty much right on target again.
Wow, absolutely amazing. I love the diversity of that with moving out of your comfort zone and trying, something new. And I know obviously there are a few ways that powerlifting and bodybuilding, there are some complementary aspects. Obviously,
Mhm.
there's also
Yeah.
some big differences. So it is very, very cool. So like we were mentioning earlier about your powerlifting training, talking about the bodybuilding training, some of the changes you've had to make, some of the dieting, just things that you do, day to day that people will find interesting. But first of all, let's talk about the changes in your training and a little bit more detail about what bodybuilding training is actually like for anyone that doesn't know.
So, um, training is a little bit different for me anyway, off season to when I'm actually in prep. When I'm off season, I'm doing a lot of powerlifting moves still because I want to have the strength. Powerlifting has helped me put on mass and, the size that I need. And then when I'm starting to get into that prep, it's not about, that super heavy weight, even though I still try to push myself, I do. But it's more focusing on the muscle and the contraction and, time under tension and just focusing on that muscle growth, so the training is a lot different. I'm not pushing super heavy weight right now. It's more focused on the muscles and the contractions and everything.
Absolutely. And when I've spoken with bodybuilders, well, in all fairness, strength sports in general, powerlifting and strong man or strong woman, or all of these things, obviously the diet and the nutrition aspect is, well, it can be, pretty insane actually, especially with bodybuilding and everything. Talk to us a little bit about that, about your nutrition regime as well, please. That would be great to touch on.
So I'm thankful that as with my coach, he handles everything. So people ask me, how many calories are you taking in? And I'm like, I have no idea. Like, he programs my food. He tells me what to eat, when I'm eating it, how much, and that's what I do. I don't really care to know what the calories are, because honestly, I think that if I knew that I'm just going to throw a number out there. If I'm like at 1,300 calories, I'd freak out and be like, yo, I'm starving just because of the number. Even though I'm not starving, the number will mess with my head. So it's so much easier to have somebody tell me what to eat. So I have 6 meals a day. I'm eating anywhere between every 2.5 to 3 hours. On a normal day, just because of work and everything, I have my first meal around 6:30 in the morning, and then I try to cut off my last meal between 8 and 8:30 at night.
Wow. That is, like I said, the diet aspect is crazy. But yeah, I mean, also though, there is a valuable life lesson there as well. Taking advice from the right people, because at the end of the day, success breeds success, doesn't it? I mean, if you want to achieve something, you have to surround yourself with people who have achieved that thing, who are
Mhm.
experts in that field. And I know it sounds kind of obvious in a way, but I think it's a good lesson for people, because a lot of people listen to opinions and listen to people who say, you can't do something or whatever. But that advice is never coming from somebody who's actually done it themselves. It's always coming from
Mhm.
people who can't do it. So I actually think in an abstract way, you've highlighted a really good point there. Spending time around the right people who are chasing those goals, achieving those goals, have achieved them, they know what they're doing. So it's again, not just for sports, but for life. So in terms of bodybuilding, following on from that, history repeated itself, didn't it? Because in your first competition, you did really, really well, and were first place in everything, I believe. So
Yeah.
can you share with us a little bit about your memories and what that competition was like, being your first bodybuilding competition, please?
I was super nervous, and I knew that the two females that I was up against, they had already been doing bodybuilding for quite some time. It's my first one. I mean, I had high expectations because I wanted to do well, but yeah. When I won the overall, I was like, I was so happy. And then when I went backstage, I started crying because I couldn't believe that I had achieved it. And I'm looking, my coach was there. I was looking for him. Um, and I remember jumping up, because he's super big, just my husband's super big as well. I jumped up on him and I was crying. I was so excited. And then I was looking for my husband and he came running back, and it was just it was amazing. It was amazing. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm super blessed and super fortunate in the fact that I have two people, my husband Tim and my bodybuilding coach Alex, that know what they're doing. They're super supportive. And like I said, even with the bodybuilding, when I've had moments where I'm like not sure if I'm going to be ready or this or that, I mean, Alex has been great, and he tells me how it is, and basically tells me to shut the hell up and just stay focused. I'm like, okay, I'll shut up.
Oh, absolutely. Well, incredible achievement, and it's really. I mean, I love it how you're in there and you go up against people who've been doing this a long time, and you just, you do so well. It seems everything that you're sharing is incredible. There's so many lessons here, and I'm resisting the temptation to go off and this tangent and that tangent. But we need to talk about the future as well because we'll talk about the future, and then we'll talk about a few sort of what I call intangible topics, which is basically your advice for people who want to achieve big goals and a few other things like that. But before we get into all of that, your future plans. Now, you mentioned about having an important one coming up in 3 weeks, I think you said, and I'd like to talk about that one and then to talk about your future beyond that. And I don't mind really how far ahead you want to go. But we'll talk about that. Let's start with the one in 3 weeks, how preparations are going, how you feel about it, what your expectations are from it. Just anything you'd like to share like that, please.
So we're going to be going to the NPC Universe in Teaneck, New Jersey, and I'm set to be on the stage June 29th. So I'm super excited about that. Right now, prep seems to be going well at this point. I'm confident that by the time I'm ready to step on the stage, everything should, be as good as it's going to be and beyond what I was last year. I mean, I already am. The difference between my first show and this show where I am right now, 3 weeks out, is mind blowing. I'm impressed. I'm like, that's crazy. Sometimes I'll do like my side by sides from last show to this last prep to this prep, and I'm like, okay, I guess I have gotten bigger. Um, so yeah, we're pretty much all set up for that. Super excited. That'll only be my second show, and hopefully, God willing, everything goes out well. I'll walk away with my pro card that day.
Wow, absolutely amazing. Well, good luck for it. I believe you'll do well because, like you say, in all the preparation you put in, mind, body, and spirit, which I'll also touch on in a minute as well. But well, no, yeah. Well, before we get into that, though, actually, let's look a little bit further ahead in the future as well. I believe you'll do very well. I'll be cheering for you from over many thousand miles away we are. But looking past that as well, I don't mind how far ahead you want to go. But one of the things to touch on here, are you going to be doing sort of the powerlifting and bodybuilding side by side, or that's a
Yes.
yes? Okay. Let's talk a little bit about your future plans in general then, please.
So I'm clearly, I like to challenge myself, obviously, because after this show, June 29th, I immediately go into a 12-week block for the 9/11 Invitational again, in New York in September. So I'll have 12 weeks to prep for that, where my husband has huge goals set for me, and I'm putting them in my head already. So last year I hit the all-time world record for 148-pound female category. I weighed 144 pounds at that time, and I hit 460 pounds. So this year we're trying to hit 500. So
Wow, that is something. I mean, I know you sent that over to me and everything, but I was just thinking about the weights and I mean, my jaw was probably on the floor then. But I was, wow, what a thing to do. But again, this is the beauty of it is consistently pushing yourself to see how far you can go. And I really do like another thing that you've highlighted there as well, that even though obviously these are competitive sports with other people, really you're competing with yourself in a lot of ways. And I think that's a very valuable lesson for people in life as well. Because when a lot of people compare themselves, don't they? And of course, the thing with comparison, those people have a different history, they have a different
mhm.
starting point, they're doing this for different reasons. Even if you're in the same competition, there's actually so many differences in the human aspect. And it's why I always say the best thing to do, compete with yourself. It leads to a lot
Yes.
of happiness and satisfaction. And in my experience of over I don't even know how many, but over 250 interviews like this. That's something that comes up over and over again with people who've achieved great things, is not so much looking at that person saying, right, I want to beat that, but looking at, what I was doing this time before and saying, right, I want to beat that. And that seems to yield a lot greater results, doesn't it? And that's something that really comes over from what you've been saying. So,
Mhm. I just feel like if you, and it's funny because my husband and I just had this conversation yesterday. I was like, if you look at somebody else and what they're doing and you're paying attention to them, then they're living in your mind rent free. What does it matter what they're doing? I don't care, because at the end of the day, if I'm so busy being focused on them, I'm not focusing on myself. And it takes away from my training. It takes away from my thought process. It takes away from everything because I'm so stuck on what someone else is doing that I lose focus and sight of what I need to do.
absolutely. Yeah, that's a powerful lesson, actually. Really, really good. And again, it applies to multiple life areas as well,
Mhm.
not just to sports. On the subject of multiple life areas as well, I understand that your faith is very important to you, and I'd like to give this a quick mention as well in terms of how that factors into your daily life, but also how that factors into competition. And this can be anything from, if you pray before a competition and little subtle things like that, but how you believe um, that you're guided and protected and everything. I'm a spiritual person as well, by the way, but I'm just putting this out there because I think that the principle of faith is very important. Not only from the religious aspect, but from the aspect that faith is obviously the opposite of fear as well.
Mhm.
And so when you're in the mindset of that trust, that's a very, very powerful thing. So, in your own words, I don't mind which direction this takes, but in your
Mhm.
own words, just a little bit about that side of your life, if that's okay, please.
Yeah, that's fine. So I grew up Catholic. We went to church, did all the sacraments and everything. My husband's Catholic. Our children go to Catholic school. We pray every day. Every morning without fail, over breakfast. He gets his coffee, I have my meal, and we pray together. I have some people are like, well, you sit there and talk, and I mean, we talk, yeah, but I have an app on my phone, and it's a daily devotional, and we listen to the reading and them explaining the reading. We pray together. I mean, we do that every single morning without fail, because it's important to us to do it. Um, I feel like, and this is just me. Without without that faith, I feel like I would fail. I have it's important to me. I have to have it. Um, and I want my kids to see that, it's important to believe in something. Um, Not everybody believes in the same thing, and that's quite fine. And I don't force how I feel on anybody. Um, but it's just me. I need to believe that there's something there. It helps me get through my days, especially on those days where I feel like I'm tired, I'm not gonna make it, um, I just wanna quit. There's something there to keep me going.
Absolutely. Well, that's a beautiful answer in all fairness, because I just, again, from your social media and everything, I felt that that's an important topic to touch on. But it is an important topic to touch on, and I'm glad you said that because, yeah, I mean, it's not about ramming anything down anybody's throat, believe this, believe that, whatever. No, but just from the point of view that um, the higher power, I mean, obviously I believe in God and the higher power and everything myself,
Mhm,
but obviously I also am personally of the opinion that people believe in that just in different forms, but they're tapping
mhm,
into the same energy, they're tapping into the same power that's guiding them, but without getting too sort of kooky about it. But the thing is, again, even on a very simple level, faith, as I said, is the opposite of fear, whatever form that faith comes in. And trusting that there is something bigger than yourself, and the process of learning to trust something or anything that's bigger than yourself is in
mhm,
itself a very valuable lesson. So um that's something, because I mean, it's, you know, a lot of things in life come down to that, don't they? You know, you can fear what goes wrong, you can have faith in what goes right. It sounds deceptively simple, but it's also, and you know, we live in an age where fear is, um, well, it is rammed down people's throats, really. Fear is
Yeah.
extensively used as a weapon, you know, and so it's very important to talk about faith. Anyway, moving on from that, the other couple of intangible things as well. Sort of a big question, this, but I'm going to ask you anyway. When it comes to, say, if there's somebody listening to this who wants to achieve a big life goal. Now, it doesn't have to be in sports. It can be in sports, but it can also be in something else, in education, in career, in family and relationships. It comes in different things. We've highlighted some really good lessons so far through this, but if you had to give advice to, you know, maybe one or two things you regard to be essential to succeed, especially for people who are starting out. So I'm sort of aiming this a little bit at people who um, are sort of starting on a journey towards a goal. It would just be good to get like one or two things that you would say to them, basically, wherever they're listening from around the world, if they have something they have their heart set on, because you're in a very good place to give this advice, having achieved everything that you have so far, if that all makes sense, you know?
Mhm. So the one thing that I hold near and dear to me is that it's never too late. It's never too late to start. I did not start as a teenager. I was already in my 40s, what, 30, late 30s, early 40s, when I started this. Um, and I just feel like if there's something that you want to do, just do it. It's never too late to start, and stay focused. Things aren't always going to be perfect. I have yet to have the perfect training cycle. I have gotten multiple injuries. I've had multiple setbacks. Things just did not work. And I didn't allow those things to stop me. It also helped, like I said, to have the support system there, because I honestly think that without that support system, I probably would have, I hate to think to say I would have failed, but I probably would have, if I'm being honest with myself. It's important to have the support and somebody, and not just somebody. I mean, I've got just a group, a close group of friends that I consider family, um, that have just, they're so they're so motivating, and just so caring and compassionate, and just they want me to do well, that it's almost like they won't let me fail, because if I fail, then they fail. um it's it's humbling, really. I don't feel like I deserve anything that great, but here I am.
Absolutely. Well, there's some really rock solid advice there. And well, given everything you've achieved, you know, you're in a good position to give that advice. I know you're a very humble person and everything. So maybe it even seems strange saying, oh, you know, what advice would you give? But at the same time, it's very valuable because in this day and age, when it comes to the concept of positive role models and everything, they are, in my personal opinion, sadly lacking. And obviously, I know you're a very humble person, so maybe you don't look at yourself and say, "Well, I'm a role model," but you are in a sense, and nobody's perfect. I'm not saying that, but I am saying with the lessons you've learned along the way, I hope that some of those filter down as people listen to this and people can pick up on them and put them into action in their own lives. There's a lot of things you said there, but especially the age thing as well. Age is just a number. It's very
Mhm.
important, very important lesson because a lot of people don't allow themselves to start based on that, just
Mhm.
that one simple saying, too late for me. Well, there we are. And obviously that's not true. And I was thinking that. I was thinking, you know, you must have started later.
Yeah.
But and I think that's absolutely incredible as well, to be honest, you know, but I wasn't going to ask because you know,
No, you're good.
never ask a lady her age. It's not polite at all, is it? But
No, that's okay. I'll be 46 this year, so I started late. I started late.
absolutely, that's incredible though, because it does show people it's never too late, you know, and just by competing, you represent that. And again, not just for sports, but for life. How many people have a dream and, other things happened, they had to pay their bills, they had kids, they had all sorts of other things. And obviously, family and things that, it's a blessing. I'm not saying otherwise, but these things can get in the way. And people think, oh, well, after being in the next life for me, I'm never going to do this. And actually, you can, it's never too late. So,
Mhm.
I'm really glad we got to give that a mention as well. So, last couple of things before we wrap this up. I'd also like to touch on more broadly how becoming such a successful athlete has improved your life in other life areas. So what I mean by that is, it's a little bit abstract, this one, but what I mean by that is obviously we've focused very specifically on the competitions themselves. But the beautiful thing about sports is I've seen it save so many lives. People going from being, for example, very shy, very underconfident to, being very confident, speaking to people, going out there. I've seen people overcome, mental health and addictions and all sorts of things through sports. And all of these things that you can't really put a price on, or even if it's more day to day, it's improve people's relationships, improve people's confidence. It just has obviously an effect on the whole person, not just on the athlete, side of that person's life. So, like I said, I know this one's a little bit out of the box, but it'd be good to touch on how, through achieving everything you've achieved and through pushing yourself so far, how you've noticed positive changes in areas of your life that don't directly relate to sport, if you get where I'm going with this. And it's not to
Mhm.
get into anything too personal, by the way, by any means, but just the overlap, I think, is a cool topic that's not talked about enough, if this all makes sense.
Mhm. Um, you mentioned something about being able to talk. So I'm realistic. I'm an introvert. I am I don't feel comfortable. So we're talking now and I'm still super nervous. I'm like sweating still. And we've been talking for a minute. um, but I've always been super nervous talking to people that I don't know. Even sometimes talking to people that I do know and I stumble over my words. I'm like, oh my God, I sound like such an idiot. Um, but I've noticed that people approach me more and they want advice on, hey, how can I get this or how can I get that, or when did you start doing your stuff? Like just yesterday I was in Walmart and someone came up to me and she was like, I'm sorry to bother you, but she wanted to talk to me about how I got started into working out. um, and I found it was super easy to talk to her about it, because obviously it's my life, where normally and somebody came up to me just about anything random, I'd be like, oh my God, why are they talking to me? I'm looking, when my husband's with me, I'm like, go talk to them, go, you tell them, because I don't want to talk. But it's allowed me to find my voice, I guess, and be okay with speaking and feeling comfortable with speaking. Um, I think it's also helped me be a better wife and a better mom too. I've um, my husband and I have a great relationship. It's not perfect. What relationship is, but I personally think it's fabulous. This has brought us so close. And I think without this, we would probably still be close because we have a great love affair with food. So if we didn't have the sport, we just fall back on our food. um, but it, I, it's this ride has been amazing with him, and um, we have our children that we show them anything is possible as long as you work together and you stay focused. And I mean, my kids, they're kids, but they're great too. I have one that has autism, and I will tell you that that little boy doesn't let anything stop him. He's probably one of the smartest kids that I know.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, first of all, I'm glad you mentioned. Actually, I'm glad you mentioned that with the autism thing, because it really is a gift. And let's just say I know that from personal experience, and we'll get into that another time. But it really is a gift, and obviously it's seen that obviously there's stigma and there's all this stuff about how it's seen, but it's actually, I always think that people on the spectrum have some of the most incredible talents, and incredible ways of thinking, about the world differently and
Hmm.
everything. Obviously, the sensitivities are, difficult. They can make life
Yeah.
difficult, but at the same time, the blessings on the other side of it. So I'm actually really glad you mentioned that, because I feel very strongly about the education system being sort of a bit one size fits all, not adapting
Hmm.
to different learning styles. And
Yep.
people have different learning styles. So that's slightly off topic, but I'm glad you mentioned it. But in terms of everything else you said there about family and about your confidence, well done for this today, because it's one of those things where doing an interview, it is always a brave thing, because obviously no matter how many I do, I say this to people, it is a brave thing, because we're taking things that are personal in a way and putting them out there for people to listen to. It takes courage to do that, and especially because you said you're more of a shy person and everything. I wouldn't have really guessed that unless you just
Yeah.
said, because you're talking very confidently here. But just me saying well done for this. And we'll close out with the last question, which is just anybody else you'd like to thank. I mean, we've given a great shout out to your husband. We've given a great shout out to your bodybuilding coach as well. With this, the only reason I do this is because obviously with the people who've helped you, you know them and they know you, and you're all in life together. For the rest of the world, there's people helping you, who are sort of behind the scenes in a sense,
Mhm.
and if we've covered everybody that you'd like to thank, that's super cool. If there's anybody else who's helped you along the way, be good to give them a shout out, and then that's it really.
So we have I told you we have a gym in our garage, and our little group is called Raw Iron Barbell. And that's the group of friends that we come together every weekend and we train together here at the house. They have all been a huge part of my success. And quite honestly, like I said, without that support, I probably would have failed. So they're all amazing. I absolutely love them. A group of them are actually coming to New York with us for the 9/11 meet. I wouldn't have it any other way, because I need them there in order to hit that 500 bench press. Um, and my coworkers, I honestly, without my job is great. I love my job. Without my boss and my coworkers being supportive of what I'm doing, it would be almost impossible to get the training and everything in that I need. Plus, they deal with me when I'm cranky and hungry, so good on them.
Oh, wonderful. Well, like I say, it's good to give them a mention, and I do usually close out with thank yous, just to give anyone a mention who deserves it for the work that they're doing behind the scenes. Um, I'd like to thank you so much for making the time to do this, for being an open book and sharing so much about your life, really, and there's some amazing things on the horizon for you as well. So I'd like to say good luck for all of those. But for today, just thank you, because it's been super fun. It's been super cool listening to you. I've learned and taken away some lessons from this. I'm sure other people will as well. So just thank you for everything, basically.
Thank you so much. It was great.
Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the Simply Inspired YouTube channel, and there'll be more videos coming soon.